everyone. Yes, the day of reckoning has come. Yeah, so today is, the day where I decide to do the graduation paper, discussion thing live on our stream. So originally, I was kind of thinking about it doing it around 10 p.m. But, well, it's 4 in the morning, so you probably assumed how well that went. I didn't, like, oversleep or anything. It's just that about, like, 9 p.m., when I was, like, really satisfied with the way, the presentation and our paper was going, well, one of the people, higher-ups in our lab came, down to where I was, working for a visit, and he was like, you know what, Lopho? I've seen what you've done, and it kind of sucks ass. So, I was like, oh, well, shit, I guess we're gonna redo everything. So, well, that's why it took me a while. Then I went ahead, did some presentations in front of other people, just as a test, in a sense. So, hello, Brachiosaur, welcome. So, yeah, so today, we're gonna be doing some very interesting stuff. So, I'll be presenting my, graduation thesis regarding, some very cool stuff, right? This is actual science, geology shenanigans. So, hopefully you guys enjoy this. It's gonna be a very short presentation, about, like, 15 minutes. And then I'll go over some details, some minor things that y'all might have missed. And, right, so, let's begin. So, alright, here we go! Right, very funny, because I've done this presentation practice for about, like, 3 or 4 times, but everything has been in Korean. And this is the first time I'm actually doing this in English, so this is gonna be a bit weird, but, well, here we are with the study on the central Cambrian Daegi formation and its sedimentary environment of the Cheoram-do area of Taebaek City. Special Self-Governing Province, yada yada yada. Okay, so, we will be talking over, the presentation will proceed in the following order. We'll do the introduction, the geological overview, research methods, results, and the conclusion. So, let's begin, with our, introduction. Okay, so, let's see. Research on the sedimentary environment of the lower Paleozoic strata of the Joseon supergroup was carried out at exposures in Dongjeom Taebaek City and at the Sakije Forest Road in Bongwa Country in Gyeongsangbuk-do, which is like on the other side of Seoul, vertically from like South Korea. So this is the region which I did the study in, and I think I've showed you guys on stream, but if you've seen that really long stretch of like rock that I shown, like this is this pod. It's just from a satellite view, so it's down there, this rock, this red area, that's where I studied. So, however, due to vegetation and deformation, outcrops were discontinuous, which means that, well, in stratigraphy, you need to see the big rock, right? But the thing is, because it's, because of trees and stuff, trees would, like, grow in between these trees, which basically meant you won't be able to get the full sedimentary overview, so, which sucks. So far, we haven't been able to do, like a throughout investigation of it, in a sense. But very recently, around 2018, there has been a roadside construction. As you can see over here, there's actually like a bit of a path that goes down. This is like the grayish, not grayish, this is like the light brownish path that you see going down. So this is the new construction of a road that underwent around 2018. And that showed us more of the pure rock, basically, because forklifts went ahead and just bashed up this entire mountainside. So we have fresh exposed sediment. So with that, we've been able to do some research. So let's see. Let's talk about this now. So research on the sedimentary region environment of the lower Paleozoic strata of the Joseon supergroup, which is where the Daegi formation is. So, well, it's basically, it's like a supergroup, then it's a group, then it's a formation. If you know basic geology stuff, or I don't know how to put it in like more common I guess common way of speaking it. I guess in a sense, how do I say this in dinosaur terms? Like, yeah, you have the Morrison formation, right? But the Morrison formation is within another group. It's like genus, species, yada yada yada, but for geology and sediments, basically. So, yeah, so this is, the Joseon supergroup, which has all these, like, where is it? There's a Joseon supergroup, which consists of all these, like, mini supergroups, basically. But even this, it's similar to paleontology in a sense that it always changes. So, there used to be a guy called Kobayashi. So, he's a Japanese guy, and he did research on South Korea around 1942. So, for those who are actually familiar with this country's, history, you might actually realize that, well, South Korea actually had a history of being, governed by Japan. And during this area is when he came over, and he was studying like geology, because back then Korea was just starting to get modernized, so we never really had a proper geological evaluation, yes, of our terrain, basically. So he's a guy, random Japanese geologist. He went ahead and mapped out everything. So this is the foundation, basically, of this region's geology studies. So he classified the Joseon supergroup into 5 types: the Duibong type, the Yongwol type, the Pyeongchang type, the Gyeongsang type, and the Munyang type, based on facies, which is basically like little rock fragments, stratigraphy, and fossil assemblages. But in 1998, along came Cho, which is a different guy. He argued that the former naming system was insufficient and proposed reclassifying them as the Taebaek, Yongwol, Pyeongchang, and Munyang, which is the one that we actually use nowadays. So, however, nowadays, again, science always changes. So, we have the Taebaek group, which is this one inside this one. So, let's just zoom in into this blue part here, which shows up into this. So, again, this is a super group, and now we found the group, and now we're gonna go inside and look at the formations. So, it basically has 11 formations, which is divided into 2, the Jikdong and the Sandong. The Jikdong is the lower Cambrian area, which, I mean, it's like the Cambrian era, and the Sangdong has the Ordovician area. So, you know, Ordovician and Cambrian, Snimity Snap Opabinia stuff. So, yeah, which is, actually, it's very early. So, we don't actually have, the same sediment as the time in which we found, like, Anomalocaris and Ophibiniae. I think they're, like, very early Cambrian. Wait, are they? Are they early Cambrian or mid Cambrian? Actually, hold up, quick search. I'm pretty sure it's early, right? That's why it's called the Cambrian explosion, right? It was in the Cambrian period, 400. Okay, that is. It's the early to middle Cambrian. Oh, okay, so it actually might be. Might overlap with the Jangsan and Myeongsan, but this isn't the region where we are in. Okay, well, okay, move on to the actual topic, right? So basically it has 11 formations inside the Taebaek group, which is the one we're talking about. It has the Jangsan, the Myobong, the Daegi, the Sesong, the Hwajol. These are the Jikdong supergroup. And then we have the Dongjam, the Dumugul, the Makol, the Jigunsan, and Duibong, which belongs to the Sangdong subgroup. But we're gonna be focusing on the Daegi formation, which is in the Jikdong subgroup, which is around the middle late Cambrian. So yeah, unfortunately no Ophibinia, guys. And to be fair, we might have had Ophibinias, who knows, but like the preservation status of the formation isn't as good as so that we wouldn't be able to find like an Ophibinia, right? Because the Burgess shale has a very specific type of shale, which is like volcanic shale. Not really volcanic, no, it's like black shale, which is formed with very low oxygen intake. So, which this one, we did find shale here, but it's like very brownish shale that was plentiful in oxygen, which means things decompose easy. Much more easier than other areas, like unlike other areas like the Burgess Shale formation, which has almost no air, so nothing was decomposing those Ophibiniae, so that's why we found them. Here we might be having them, who knows? In fact, there's actually some evidence to back it up, because I think near to the Daegi formation, this was actually something that I was planning to put in the study, but we ended up skipping over that. And it's the fact that the Daegi formation actually has a lot of similarities with Chinese formation, because back then those two areas were connected, which I think is the Zhangxiang formation, I think, which has a bunch of species of trilobites and stuff, and we have some species of overlap. So it's similar to how a long time ago people found, you know, you probably heard about Lystrosaurus, the Glossopteris, we found the Mesosaurus. They're all like traces of different animals, the same animals that were found in different countries, because back then they were all the same. This is the basically the marine version of it. So we found, I'm not quite sure what the actual species were. I think Collecta made a model of it. Which one? Red Lichia. Yes, Red Lichia. This is one of the fossils that was found, I think, in the Zhangsheng Formation and in the formation that we are doing research in. Although the Daegi Formation itself is also very big, right? The area where I am in, we didn't have that many Trilobites. But anyways, let's move on. Right. So where were we? Yes, we talked about the Jikdong subgroup and the Sangdong subgroup, right? So the Daegi Formation mainly consists of a massive to thin, bedded, milky white to light gray limestone, which some oolitic limestone and dolomitic limestones, which means that we found some ones that have a little bit of ooids in them. So basically, ooids are those small little, like, calcite, I guess, chocolate balls? In a sense, I mean, they're literally shaped like chocolate balls. Have you ever, like, gotten, like, a chocolate ball bit into them? You see those layers? It's basically that, but instead of chocolate, imagine, like, calcite, right? So we found little bits of calcite balls inside the formation, basically. So the boundary with the underlying Myeobong Formation, which is can we see it? It's let's zoom this up here a bit. Right, so this is the paper which I based it off. So there it is. There is a Myeobong Formation, which is the dark blue stuff. So you can see that it's slightly up over here. So did you see the new prehistoric planet trailer yet? No, I haven't. I was busy preparing for this thing, which is gonna happen in like 6 hours. So I'm freaking the shit out, right? We will be reacting to it in about like tonight evening, basically. So like 9 p.m. This is like 4 in the morning. So expect me to react to that in like 16 hours. Don't worry, I'm not gonna watch it beforehand, but just I know that it exists. Right now we're busy. Right, so the dark green blue part, the Myeobong Formation, and you can see that the Daegi Formation, they're really close to each other, right? Can we zoom in a bit further? Right, cameraman, zoom in. Right, okay, so you see this part. This, the dark blue part is the Myeobong Formation. The blue part is the Daegi Formation. So they're very close, in fact. They're so close, in fact, that the boundary with the underlying formation, which is this one, so the Myeobong Formation is defined as the base of the first limestone bed. So it goes below the Daegi Formation that we see over here. Yeah, so we found that. And as I said, it also consists of milky white to light gray limestone, which unfortunately means that it's not limestone that limestone that has where they show very well preserved organisms. Unlike the Burgess Shale, it doesn't have like that. It doesn't preserve fossils that well. So yes, let's talk about research methods. What the hell do we do? Like you went there. Like, what the fuck do you do, Lopho? Right? Let's take a look. Right? So research methods. So we took a look at a 70-meter interval of continuously exposed limestone section. I don't have the image right now, but okay, editor Lopho, bring up the image where I talked about and I showed you guys the panorama view of all the limestones, right? So that's basically the 70-meter interval of the continuous exposed limestone section, which totals more than 140 meters in thickness, was selected and 5 field surveys were conducted between October 2014 and August 2025. And we've used the Dunham's limestone classification, which is something you'll actually see very common in sedimentology. So this is basically, Dunham is some kind of geologist, lived a long time ago, right? Whoever he is, it's not important. But what it is important is that he basically set the boundaries and notes to what size of grain goes to what stone. So for example, if it has less than 10% grains, it's a mudstone. More than 10% grain, it's a whack-a-stone or a floatstone, but if it has more grains, then it becomes a floatstone. So basically, he's the one who sorted everything out. So, right. So we did use his method of classification, which, in fact, I mean, to be fair, everyone else uses. So it's like the go-to thing. So if you ever heard of mudstone, well, that's all stones that have less than 10% grain. So yeah, we even use them in modern, normal, everyday speech. So yeah, and in fact, fun fact, this is like the same thing, but in Korean. So, Right, but I obviously I'm gonna go for the English one because it's nice. Could you play Dinos online? Not right now. I'm about to like do a life-changing discovery here. Not really discovery, but life-changing presentation, guys. All right. Let's see. Where were we? Right. Let me quick. Yeah, we went ahead and used this Dunham's limestone classification, and after we applied that and sedimentary facies characteristics, which is basically the sides of the sedimentary rocks, such as grain, color, composition, and distribution. So grain size, how big are the grains? Color, what color is it? Composition, is it basically a well-sorted mix of all small-sized grains, or is it like a mixed one with every few big ones every now and then? And distribution, how well they're spread out. They were all documented, and they were summarized in a 1 to 50 scale stratigraphic column, which we'll actually go over later. Right, so a total of 85 samples were collected and made into standard thin sections and polished thin sections. So standard thin sections are basically these ones that you would put underneath a microscope, and polished thin sections are giant chunks of rocks that you basically grind up in a side, and you basically photocopy them with a rock printer. I kid you not, that's just literally how it works. And you scan them in, and then you can observe the side of a rock. That's what we do. So, yeah, that's what we did, and a microscopic observation was used to identify general distribution, fabric, and contact relationship between facies, and the initial stratigraphic column was refined accordingly. Right, so let's look at the results. What did we find? We found a total 6 types of facies, which is basically, as I said, the patterns of rock. So we found those in the Daegi Formation. We have the wheat grainstones, we have the laminated shale, but we'll go over each one of them, right? Laminated shale, we have the limestone shale couplets, we got the nodally bearing shales, the bioclastic packstones / grainstones, and the thrombolytic boundstones. So let's go over each one of them, right? It's 6 types, it's not that long. Right, so wheat grainstones, they're bright gray, as you can see, right? No one here is colorblind, hopefully not, right? I mean, even colorblind people can see gray, right? Several centimeters thick, grain-supported fabric with micritic sediment. So, as you can see over here in B, you have these rocks. Okay, I'm supposed to show this guy with like a laser pointer, but since I don't have a laser pointer, this will do. So, you can see these grains, and then you have these a lot smaller grains, almost sand-like, that support them. That's the micritic cement that keeps these rocks from falling apart. So it's composed of ooids, which are, again, these little chocolate balls. We got peloids, which actually, some people actually say that some peloids are made out of shit. So, it might be trilobite shit for all we know. So we got peloids, we got microtized microbial skeletal fragments. So, microtized, what does that mean, you might be asking? So microtized means that so you know how most, like, shells and shellfish and stuff are made out of carbonate, right? But as time passes, those carbonate will fossilize into a basically different element. Not really element, different type of rock, I guess, which is micrite. So it will turn black. So you got microtized microbial skeletal fragments, we got aggregates, and we got trilobites. So, oh, fuck, yes, trilobites. What do you mean trilobites? I don't see trilobites. There it is, that's the trilobite. You might be wondering, how is that a trilobite? Well, if we find those really thinly sliced, weirdly, like, shellfish kind of like things, but the ones that have a very thin curvature, we can assume that these are from trilobites, since trilobite shells have a lot of curvature to them. But as I said, the formation that we are studying doesn't actually have a lot of, the environment isn't that good for well-documented fossil preservation. So we don't get full, complete trilobites. We get basically ground-up trilobite slushy. So, unfortunately, they are undefinable by characteristics. We don't know what species they were. We can just assume that, yes, there were trilobites here, and that's all about that we know. So, we do have trilobites, better found ones from the Daegi Formation, just not the area that we studied in. So, we got that. We got chanceloids, which are, basically sponges that have a little star shape inside them. Well, we'll see them later, right? I'll show you them. We got primitive crinoids. So here's the thing, right? Crinoids, yeah, it was in the R creature vote. Yeah, sorry to go off topic, but yeah, it's that thing. So here's the fun fact. The reason we decided to put crinoids, primitive crinoids in here, is because our lead professor, who was supervising our paper, decided to put primitive crinoids in his paper. But I've done my fair share of research, and it turns out that we actually, like, crinoids aren't supposed to exist in this time yet. Like, we found some from the Burgess Shale, but they are a very specific species of early crinoid that people assume that it is. In fact, we don't actually don't know the direct relation to it. But what we basically presume that we found are those like spear-like structures that people presume are from crinoids. But since crinoids aren't from this time, the better way to define them would be spear-like structures. But then again, there's also like using that kind of language might be a bit weird in a sense, because last year some guy did put that in his presentation and he got criticized because, oh well, sharp could be very subjective. So spear-like structures or sharp is a bit weird. So we did end up going for primitive crinoids, but personally, I actually doubt that they are crinoids because crinoids started appear, at least the ones with stems, the stems that would produce those spear-like structures are from the Ordovician, which is a lot later than the Cambrian. So yeah, we don't actually know what they are. So spear-like structures would be the best way to describe them, but because our professor said primitive crinoids, we're just running with them, right? Who knows, maybe they are actual crinoids, and that would, like, completely throw off the evolution of crinoids or something. That might be an interesting topic if it was not for the fact that all these crinoids here are preserved like shit. So it's basically primitive, unknown, possibly crinoid slushy. So it has no diagnostic characteristics, which means I can't really write a paper on them. So yeah, that freaking sucks. So yeah, we have these very weird crinoid fossil, which we actually can't see them here. We can only see the trilobite here. But yes, let's talk about ooids. They are about 1 to 3 millimeters in diameter, so this is 4 millimeters, which is very interesting because usually ooids aren't actually that big. This is a very exceptionally large ooid, which we actually don't see here. It's a bit weird. It's supposed to be this is 4 millimeters, so we should be finding, honestly, when we were trying to select the images to put on this presentation, we were trying to get the ones that appeared the best. We found large ooids there, but none of them were worthy of quality to put in here. So just you gotta take my word for it. We found large ones, but the ones that we put on the presentation are babies, okay? If this is like the geologic equivalent of a man saying, "Oh, I caught a fish, it's that big," right? Well, we don't have it, but you gotta take my word for it, I swear. But yes, we got 1 to 3 millimeters in diameter, well sorted. As you can see, we don't actually have really big ones here. They're all fairly small, very similar in size. And we got radial and disrupted internal structures. So radial basically means if it's like surrounding it, like a little like sheet, I guess, of carbonate. And disrupted means if the inside ones feel like they're like breaking out. How do I even put that into image, right? But I guess they kind of shape like a cell that's about to explode, right? But yes, so you guys might be asking, Lopho, what's actually this big thing here in the middle? This isn't actually, this isn't an ooid. It's like a rock fragment that got like wedged in after the sedimentation process. So it's not an ooid, it's like a rock that rolled in. So, yeah. Right, let's move on to the next, the laminated shale. So we got dark brown shale, several centimeters thick to meters thick. So this is the SL. Okay, this is a spelling mistake. Don't worry, I fixed that. It's my partner who wrote that. I would never make that kind of amateur mistake. Just kidding. I can't even spell Epidexipteryx correctly, so who am I to say? Right. So we got dark brown shale, several centimeters to meters thick, laminated parallel to bedding, and with good lateral continuity, which means that, well, there's nothing that's really cut in between. It's very smooth. Everything runs smooth. No weird things happening in between. Unfortunately, this image is a bit weird, but if you, like, zoom it in, right, you can kind of see, like, white lines. These are all the layers. So we got that. We actually had to double edit the image because the first time we couldn't see them very well. So, yeah, some of these images are a lot brighter than you guys, than they should be, because what do you call it? The projector that we're projecting the presentation on it's very dark. So the images end up turning a lot darker. So vice versa, we had to make them brighter so that it looks normal when it's shown on screen. But yes, we got that. We got lateral continuity, and it's composed of silt to fine-grained particles. Yeah, very fine-grained, no big chunks here and there. Just regular fine-grained pieces of what we presume is quartz. I'm pretty sure it's quartz. So, right, the next one is the limestone shale couplet. So, what is a couplet, you might be asking? If it's something that is changing from one thing to the other very quickly. So, we got this, that, basically. So we got alternating light gray limestone. You can see the light gray limestone. And the dark brown shale, which is this one up here. So, there's an L and there's an S. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you gotta take my word for it. There, SL. You guys can now see it very well. Right, so we got that. Laminated parallel to bedding with good. No, that's the other thing, right? What am I talking? Yeah, light gray limestone and dark brown shale, each with several centimeters thick. And limestone occurs as a tabular to lenticular bodies, which means tabular means it's just a plate. Lenticular means it's like a lens. So you know how some lenses are like bouncy, like in the middle. Yeah, you can see that some of them are like bouncy. Shale shows parallel or wavy forms that align with the silt side. So you can see that the the gray part here, the brown part, the shale, they form alongside the shape of the limestone. And the limestone is mainly micrite with minor fossil fragments. Again, don't keep your hopes up. Like, by fossil fragments, we mean like stuff like this. Like, it's something, we don't know what it is. It's just so small that we can barely see. Alright, so this is the bioclastic packstone to grainstone. So, what do you mean packstone to grainstone, Lopho? Just pick a side. Unfortunately, it's not really as simple as it sounds, because, well, as I said, the dynamic classification requires you to have a very specific size of, like, grains. But if something's in, like, in the middle, we aren't quite sure where to put it, and that's why we say, oh, it's packstone to grainstone. So packstone to grainstone, it could be anywhere in between. So it's like a rough estimate. Because, I mean, of course, like, you can't expect every single rock to conform to a very strict standard that humans place, right? How nonsensical would that be if that was the case? So we got several centimeters to meters thick, massive, so which means very chunky, and bright gray. Contains trilobites, primitive crinoids, once again, chancelloids, and fossil fragments. Matrix is micritic and polygonal. You can see that there's some shapes. And shows fragmentation and microtization, which means they turn black. Thin shale layers are interbedded. So you can see that it's also very really well defined, as you can see. Their lines are very strict, which is pretty unique for bioclastic packstone to grainstone, because these things are usually formed in a different way, which I actually can't remember the details. I remember reading it on the papers, but usually it's like a very rare occasion for this to happen, so it's pretty cool. So last but not least, we got the... Wait, hold up. Did I, like, miss something? Holy shit, I think... No fucking way. Of course I missed something. Right, no, this is the nodular bearing shale, of course. That's why I have the names written here, but it's like in Korean, so I got rid of it. So I was wondering, like, this isn't the way it is, right? It should be this is the one, right? Even as a presentation. Okay, you know what? Yeah, okay. Back to where we were. This is number 4, right? Yeah, this is number 4. Okay. This is the nodular bearing shale. Yes, these are the nodes. Fun fact, that's what the name Nodosaurus comes from. Node lizard. It's because of these knobs. It looks like, you know, the plates of Nodosaurus, right? So composed of irregular light gray crystalline limestone nodules. There it is. And a dark brown shale with several millimeters to centimeters thick. And contracts between nodules and shale are sharp. There it is. That's what I meant by sharp, right? Shale is composed of silt and fine grains with a homogeneous internal structure, so which means very similar internal structures. There's no, like, again, no big chunks slapped in between. Right. And now we got the bioclastic packstone to grainstone. So this is a lot of fun stuff. Very, very beautiful stuff. Probably my favorite part of them, because it shows a lot of the various fossils. So these are several centimeters to meters thick, and they're massive, which is very chunky and bright gray. Very bright gray, as you can see. They contain trilobites, primitive crinoids, chancelloroids, and fossil fragments. Here in the B section, you can actually see some traces. Like, if you can see really closely, you can see some, like, black spots. That's the fossil fragments. Right, so the matrix is microtic and polygonal, which means that it has some shapes. It shows fragmentations and microtization, and thin shale layers are interbedded. So there's some thin shale layers in between. And what's really interesting here is that we found this is a chancelloroid. So these are like types of primitive sponge-like creatures that have this star-shaped thing inside. So hold on, let me actually just bring up an image of it because it looks pretty interesting. So they look like this. They basically look like weird-shaped, oddly shaped fruit. They look like cactus fruit, but no, it's like a chancelloroid. If you cut them in half like freaking Fruit Ninja, you get like something like this. Okay, so this D is also a part of a trilobite. You can see it's very curved, and it also shows microtization, which means the calcite is slowly turning into micrite, which is stands for small calcite, by the way. Okay, so last but not least, finally, thrombolytic boundstone, which is irregular to horizontally extended black microbial clotted structures. You can see that there's a lot of clotted black things over here. Surrounded by light gray micrite, which includes trilobites, chancelloroids, and fossil fragments. So we got more chancelloroids here. You can see this is a chancelloroid. You get a shape. There's a big thing surrounding it. Again, we see a shape. The outer layer, unfortunately, seems to have disappeared. I did also get criticism because people wasn't able to see like the arrow pointing down, but if you see the white parts down here, these are also like small fossil fragments. We aren't quite sure what they are. In fact, these are sharp-like structures is what we say are primitive crinoids. Although, again, I doubt that they are actually crinoids. Alright! Let's move on to our big strip. So this is the environmental interpretation that we did of the formation. So you can see that this is drawn by Lopho himself with his 100 Korean dollar tablet. All that was spent just for this. So we got the lower Uyt grainstone, which we see over here, is interpreted as a high energy subtidal environment, which means it has been highly affected by waves and currents based on abundant Uyts, which means because Uyts are usually formed when there's a lot of like stuff happening. Because, well, Uyts, as I said, they're surrounded by calcite. So how do the calcite balls, like for example, if you were to make a snowman, you can't just leave snow in the middle of nowhere and expect it to be a snowman. But if for example, imagine if the snow is underwater, right? I know I'm stretching the logics of physics here, but like, hear me out. If snow is underwater and the waves were able to like roll the snow around, it would eventually like bundle up, right? Like a little snowball, right? That's basically what an Uyt is. So that's why we got Uyts, which assumes that means that it's been affected by waves. Very interesting. Right, so we got that. Good sorting, grain supporter fabric, and micritic cement, as we saw earlier. And the radial and partially disrupted internal structures of Uyts reflect repeated rework in high energy conditions. So even the ones that have been completed, they were continuously bashed, and some of them broke. So the overlaying laminated shale. So let's like the gray part, this one. Laminated shale. So, with the fine grain size, homogenic fabric, and lamination is interpreted as having been deposited below fair weather wave base. So, below fair weather wave base is basically this line that you see. So, the FWWB, it stands for fair, what was it? Lopho? I literally said it like 10 seconds ago. I swear to God. Yeah, fair weather wave base. Yes, holy shit, well, that's a mouthful. So basically this line shows how far the wave can reach. Anything below the line, the waves can't reach. Anything above the line, waves can reach. So you can see that the Uyts, which are usually formed under very a lot of heavy wave activity. They're usually formed over on top, whereas the ones that, like shale, the ones that don't actually require a lot of heavy reworking of waves, are usually located below the wave point, so they aren't affected by it. So, for example, if you're really deep underwater, even if there's like a storm brewing above, you probably won't realize it, right? That's basically the logic behind this. Okay, so likely the flank or back barrier area associated with Uit shoals. So, because they were so bundled up, they would eventually protect these areas. I'm assuming is what we've concluded, right? I didn't really work on the conclusion myself, I'm gonna be honest. This isn't really my area of expertise. I'm the kind of guy who like makes these rock slabs and draw stuff. So the conclusion is kind of my partner's thing, but I did read it. I did kind of understand it, so I'm gonna talk about it now. So, the limestone shale couplet, which we have over here, these ones. So yeah, the laminated shale was the gray one. Yes, the couplets are this very small layer that we found over here. Another bearing shale reflect a periodic alternation of carbonate and shale deposition, as you can see. Limestone shale, limestone shale. Basically, carbonate is limestone. When carbonate bundles up, it becomes limestone. So, yes, with nodules indicating storm-derived carbonate debris incorporated into low energy setting. So, we got carbonate debris that were affected by the waves, but then you got thrown them under this area where there's lower energy. So, outer subtidal setting, intermittently disturbed by storms. Some disturbed, but usually it's fine. So the upper bioclastic packstone grainstone area, which is this area, the blue one. So this is interpreted as storm-influenced deposits. So these are areas that aren't typically in line of the wave FWWB, but they are affected by it simply because of how close they are to the areas that are affected by it. So characterized by massive structures, bioturbation, and concentration of coarse skeletal fragments, like the ones that from Trilobites. And the chancelloroids and like the primitive crinoids, in quotations, that we found. And we got the thrombolytic boundstone. So there's a bit of an error here with this image, and it's the fact that thrombolytic boundstones are actually more reefs, because thrombolites are basically prehistoric reefs. So in between there should be some blue, because these are basically chunks of reefs, as you can see on this image, that are placed on top of the blue not really blue in this sense, but like blue in this image at least, packstone to grainstone here. But because it's supposed to be placed on top of it, some of my friends actually suggested we should put a bit of blue in between them, but we just decided to go everything green, because it's like the majority of the rocks that we found are thrombolytic boundstone. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixed opinion. I'm gonna be honest. I just couldn't change it, because by the time they criticized it, we were already in the part where we started wrapping it up, so I just couldn't do that. I might change it, because like in a couple of hours, me and our professors will be going over this, and our professors will probably be cooking up me alive and my partner alive with questions, and they'll probably shit on us for not adding in these blue lines, which I guess I'll add them in afterwards. So, but yes, we got that. And this is our conclusion, right? So we got the 6 facies that were identified in the lower Daegi formation. We got the Uit grainstone, the laminated shale. We got the limestone shale couplets, which is these the lines that we don't see here, because again, it's not something that appears very often. As you can see in the entire sedimentary diagram that we have, only these 2 areas are the limestone shale couplets. So I guess that's why we didn't put them in the image, because it doesn't have, like, it's a fairly rare occasion that doesn't really happen that often. So we got the couplets, we got the nodular bearing shales, we got the bioclastic packstone to grainstone, which is these ones, and we got the thrombolytic boundstones, which are like the primitive reef-like thing. So we got the lower Uit grainstone and the bioclastic packstone / grainstone that represent high-energy storm-dominated subtidal environments, as we said, the yellow part, because they're above this little, you see this little bulge, right? That's the stuff that the wave touches. The middle laminated shale, the limestone shale couplet, and the nodular bearing shale represent low-energy environments where fine sediment accumulated, like these areas, and the upper thrombolytic boundstone formed in a relatively stable subtidal environment, dominated by microbial activity. So, because Trilobites are made by microbial. So, microbes? Microbes, yes, microbes. Yes. Yes, English to be English, right? Overall, the Lower Daegi Formation records a gradual transition from high-energy storm-dominated areas, which is the yellow part, to stable, low-energy subtidal settings, which are the blue parts and the grayish-black parts. Yay! And there we go. That's the presentation that we did. Yeah, great. Wow, guys, any questions? Like, I mean, I'm fine with y'all asking questions, but yeah, I don't know if I can accept. I don't know if I'll be able to answer them. But yeah, that's basically what I did for the past like 2 years. Just going over the sediment. So, let's also talk about this for a moment for an image. So, because it's an error that I personally did with my study. So this diagram is a modified diagram from another paper that we took reference from. But the difference is that so this isn't like an actual like one-to-one representation of the sediment of the actual area, because the shoal is over here and not over here, which is where it should be. This is more of a visual diagram to kind of show the effect that the shoal has on these different areas. So this one, you can see that some areas we got the Trilobites, some areas we got the nodular shale. So this is more of a visual, like, display of the elements that consist this formation, instead of like a one-to-one, like, this is how it actually was back in the day. No, that's not what it is. So it's difficult for me to explain, but it's not a one-to-one representation. It's more of a visual model of how this area affects the surrounding area. So we got that. So, small criticism from Lopho to Lopho. So here's the thing, right? And it's something that I'm not exactly happy about, and it's the fact that, well, it's true that this area that we found is relatively large from the other parts of the Daegi Formation that have been uncovered since. But the problem is, at the end of the day, it's still the Daegi Formation. And if you think about it in a way, if you want to write a new scientific paper, you kind of want to have new information there, right? That talks to you, saying that, oh yes, I found this new cool thing, so we're gonna be presenting to you in a paper, right? But that's not exactly what happened here. We found this new big area, and we came to the same conclusion that the previous Daegi Formation research has already concluded. So this isn't really anything new. In a sense, this is basically more reconfirmation of information that we already knew. So I don't really know if that classifies as something new, but at the same time, if you want to do sedimentology, Earth history stuff, unfortunately, it's true that we won't be able to find anything new, because most of this area has already been exhausted in terms of research. So, which kind of sucks, because one of my goals, actually, for the graduation paper, like, presentation thing, was that I think the top 2 people that presented the best, they get a bit of a reward, they get applause, and I saw that last time, like last year, with my senpais getting that, and I was like, holy shit, I want to be #1 as well. And I'm afraid, despite us putting a lot of effort, that we might not even be qualified to do that, because the end research result isn't anything like interesting. And unfortunately, I know that that the research that we did isn't like, it's nothing new, and how interesting the research is, as much as I hate to admit it, it is a very important part of the unconscious grading part. So when people want to grade these papers and presentations, of course they'll grade the ones that have the most interesting results, right? I hate to say this, but like back when I was in the ASAD, the Asian Dinosaur Symposium, right, there's a lot of people that there was like a section of poster presentations, right? A lot of people, a lot of interesting stuff. Somebody brought mussels, somebody brought sedimentations. I think somebody talked about Protoceratops and stuff. But then along came a person that had like a mummified Brachylophosaurus, right? And of course, I'm not saying that they didn't put effort into their presentation, but I feel like in part, the reason they got the reward was not only did they do a well presentation, the research subject in question was also really fucking interesting, right? Like, you can't expect the shellfish dude to win against the mummified Brachylophosaurus. Like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, it doesn't matter how well, unless it's like some Earth revolutionary shellfish that you brought up. Unfortunately, the mummified dinosaur is gonna beat the competition. It's just the way it works. So, I feel like unconsciously, this is kind of the way it's gonna work for us. Which is just kind of unfortunate, but it's also just part of just doing sedimentology, I suppose. But yes, I need to now go and start practicing presenting this in Korean, which I am actually feeling pretty nice about. Oh yeah, I need to talk about one more thing. There's the one thing that I didn't put in the presentation. So you might be wondering, what the hell are these X's, Lopho? So these X's were. So remember how I said that this area is supposed to be very well connected? Well, spoilers alert, it isn't. There's like the 6 meter section between 59 meters to 61 meters where the construction workers dug like a waterway. So that's why we weren't able to like look at the rocks in these sections, but it's probably a thrombolytic boundstone considering it's like right above, right below. But yes, that's like a part that we weren't able to find. That's why there's like an X there if you're wondering. And like that's about it. So yeah, honestly, now that I've talked about it in English, I kind of feel more I feel like more confident in speaking it in Korean, which is very weird considering Korean is supposed to be my first language. Yet when I talk about and presentate things, I tend to do a lot better in English. I just don't know. I don't know, guys. I guess I'll talk about this once I'm done presenting it around 11 a.m., which is in like 6 hours. So guys, wish me luck, and I guess I'll see you guys this evening. So, right, yeah, I guess that's it, right? This isn't a long stream. I just did this just for me to like. I really wanted to show you guys what I did, you know? It's like a little kid showing off his little drawing, okay? You guys should say, oh, good job, Lopho, or, oh my god, this science is dog shit. Why don't you just off yourself now, Lopho? But anyways, yes, I'm also wearing a suit, if you haven't noticed, because that's what I do. I literally had to get myself a suit, because apparently that's what we do. So, right, guys, see you guys later. Bye-bye.